There's this episode was just a long cavalcade of fucking idiocy on Kenobi's part. Like the fact that he waits when they get stopped at the checkpoint, which is the most ridiculous thing ever because it's just a laser grid across the road. You could literally just walk around it and there's nothing to stop you.
You trigger their mistake was showing us the wide shot with the two big obvious gaps on each side. It's like, why would you do that?
Because like when he's killed everyone and he has to get through, he's like, oh, I don't know how to disarm this laser grid. He's like pressing the buttons and then he just shoots it to disable it. I'm like, oh, okay. The reason he's doing that is because he obviously wants to take the truck and drive it through. Yeah. But then he just starts walking through. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you
planets are small?
This episode was filled with like establishing something about power levels and fighting and then immediately subverting it. You have a stormtrooper that's high up on a tower looking at Kenobi. You have several stormtroopers around him with guns, and you have a probe droid in front of him, which are capable of shooting you. It's like, these odds are against you, Kenobi. What are you going to do? And he just goes, no, I'll just shoot them all one by one and I'll win. It's like, oh, okay. Then 3 stormtroopers show up later, and he immediately surrenders.
Oh, God,
why?
I hate fucking show.
There's a scene where they tell him to get down on the floor. They don't tell him to drop his weapon. So he gets down on the floor and he's holding his gun, pointed at them on the floor.
That
like,
shit was
this is
crazy.
like basic safety, guys. No one cares about their own safety at all. He gets out of the truck and no one pats him down. What? No one tells him, have you got any weapons or anything? They're just standing there. This guy's probably armed, but
here's
the droid comes over.
Because like I know we're jumping around all over the place, but to put this into context, fucking I'm gonna have a cerebral hemorrhage trying to describe this.
Yep.
So they've been taken to this planet where they've been told in vague terms that someone will be there to meet them and help them out because Kenobi is there with Princess Leia. She's under threat. They're getting pursued by the Empire and the Inquisitors and stuff. Their contact doesn't show up. Kenobi immediately concludes that they have to get the fuck out of there, and so they hitch a ride. And wouldn't you know it, a bunch of stormtroopers get on board the big truck with them, and none of them recognize him, apparently, even though his picture has been circulated amongst all the assassins, the bounty hunters, the Imperial troops. Everyone knows exactly who they're looking for. They look right at him. They don't recognize who he is. Fuck this show.
And he says the name Leia.
I hate this stupidity that now pervades everything.
My head almost legitimately exploded when he said Leia. I think I made a really weird noise.
Yeah.
I was losing my mind. I was like, how can they make Obi-Wan this stupid? That's so unfair.
Are you sure he's even on this planet?
They know what they're doing, Leia. They know what they're doing, Leia. They know what they're doing, Leia.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
It's like they are going under assumed names, and so the stormtroopers start questioning them about who they are, and of course Leia fucking starts blabbing her mouth off, and Kenobi, without missing a beat, goes, "Now stop that, Leia," and then immediately goes, "Oh fuck, I've just snookered myself here," and the stormtroopers are like, "What? He said Leia," and he has to try and bullshit his way out of this. He would never make that kind of mistake. He would never be that stupid.
Dude, it is like parody level. They're like, oh man, we're looking for like a Jedi, and Jedi usually wear robes and stuff, and Kenobi's like famous, and we've got a literal wanted poster equivalent of him, and he's walking around with some girl, and she's called Leia, because we would know that, because it's literally the daughter that's been kidnapped from Alderaan. They know all this. It's like, oh wow, we just bumped into a guy who looks just like a Jedi, and a little girl, and he called it Leia. It's probably nothing.
Yeah, nah, it'll be fine. Fucking I hate it. It's the perfect example, right? Which I've said before. A character is only ever as smart as the person writing them. Draw your own conclusions from that, gentlemen.
And they even say on the actual thing itself, "Oh, we always catch these Jedi, though." It's like, what? Yeah, we always catch him eventually. You don't know what he looks like, you don't know what his name is, and you don't know who he's traveling with.
And they should.
How on earth do you expect to find anyone on a planet?
Oh, so embarrassing.
I hate this. This is the thing. Like, this would be a great time for him to do the whole Force mind trick thing. You know, they're not the people you're looking for. But he's mysteriously lost his Force powers because this is a thing which now happens in Disney Star Wars, where people just cut themselves off from the Force and now they can't do anything, even if they actually want to.
It's like a new game. He started at level 1, and now he's got to slowly train, going one at a time, shooting people with blasters before he gets his lightsaber out. Like, what was it, Cal Katarn? I think had to do it.
You know what he's done? He's deleted his save files. So now he's punted back to the beginning, and he just has to do it all again. That's all it is. Why? Muller, help me out here, please. To explain how this is happening.
What specifically? The whole show? Or...
The fact that he's just forgot how to use the Force. The fact that he's now like become retarded. The fact that Princess Leia, who's a 10-year-old girl, has to like help him out and tell him where to go. Just everything. Why? Why is this show?
They want us to believe that he's really sad, and that's why he's lost Force powers. Doesn't really line up, even with TLJ's crazy rules of Luke shutting himself off from the Force, because that seemed to me like it was the deliberate choice he makes in that movie, mechanically. So I'm willing to give him a little more space than that. Kenobi needs these abilities. He spends, 2.5 episodes not using his 2 greatest tools to defend and protect the most important people in the universe to him. His lightsaber and the Force. Neither he uses. And it's just like, are they going to give us a reason why? This is something we were talking about. It was like, oh, clearly they're saving him igniting the lightsaber for like a really special moment. And one might say, well, he does it with Vader, right? And it's like, yeah, but do you see the way they do it? He's just like, oh, it's on now. You're like, oh,
yeah. I hate this. Like the director of this show is an absolute. I don't even know. I don't think the word that I want to use I can use on YouTube, or I'll just get demonetized instantly. They are a person lacking somewhat in artistic skill. I'll say it that way. I don't want to. No, I don't want to jump to this bit yet because there's a lot earlier on that I want to just cover first before we get to the true idiocy of this episode and the wasted opportunities. But before we even get to that, how can I even describe Kenobi as a character? He is sad now. He doesn't know how to use the Force anymore. He doesn't know what to do. He has to be helped. He has to be directed around by other people. He's a bit of a pathetic old man. What does that remind us of, gentlemen? I can think of a movie and a character within that movie that it definitely reminds me of. Why do they have to do this to all of these characters?
Isn't that great? It's like, you see, Han Solo, last we saw him, was still alive, and so we could just turn him into that. Luke was still alive. We could turn him into that. Obi-Wan is like, oh, he's dead. Fuck, what do we do? Is there any gaps in his history that we could use and turn him into it? It's like, yes, there is. Yes. It's like, yes.
It doesn't even make sense, though. At the end of episode 3, he wasn't like this. He's like, oh, yeah, don't worry. I'll go off. I'll protect Luke. I'll train. So his entire life work now is to protect Luke. And that means you're going to have to fight Vader. If Vader came for Luke, you have to be able and in a condition to protect him. It doesn't matter how sad you are or what you're suffering with. You've got to put that aside and focus on your mission. And he can't be bothered because he's basically sitting in his own pit of self-pity in a cave somewhere and can't even be bothered to train.
No, Disparu, you're laboring under the misapprehension that Luke is important. He's not now.
No.
It's about Leia.
We got Leia now.
We literally have a character say that Leia is just as important as Luke, don't you know? It's like, no, she fucking isn't.
She's got a message she's got to carry.
I feel like they broke a cardinal rule for lightsaber duels between Jedi and Sith. One of them picks the other up with the Force, and they can't do anything. It's like, you can't do that, because if you do, it sets a rule that if you do that,
you can never not do it then if you can.
Yeah,
if
because
you ability.
it's always been a question for fans, like, why don't they do that in the middle of fights? And we just go, it's like they cancel each other out. You try to grab them with the Force, and they'll be able to counter that with their Force ability or something like that. But no, they just show it happen here, and it's like, oh well, man, this seems like the kind of thing you should have been doing a lot of in the day,
Yeah,
but they had to have their incredible payoff of, you burned me, so I'm gonna burn you now.
No more. Leave this for a little. We'll get to that. Don't worry, we will get to that. Who's protecting Luke right now? This is a very valid question. No one, because Luke isn't important. In the context of
Uncle Owen,
he's not important now. You don't have to worry about him.
Playing toy ships with him, it's fine.
Yeah. Fuck this show.
They keep
Fuck
getting
it, and every person associated with it, because I hate it. I hate everything that they're doing with it.